Hello team, in this we're going to talk about security in the cloud. So one thing that we should do when trying to secure applications in the cloud is to collaborate with the cloud providers and use the solutions that they have designed. And cloud providers have implemented several security mechanisms. For example, they work not only on making sure that the virtualization technologies isolate tenants, but also protect their hardware. So there is some confidence that we can have on the virtualization technologies actually achieving their goals. And cloud providers have also developed several other security-related solutions. For example, cloud providers have very fine-grained access control. So last time I checked on my Google Cloud account, I had like hundreds of unused permissions. And these are permissions, for example, create virtual disks, create virtual machines, access some virtual disk, or change the configuration of some virtual disk. They have very fine-grained access control. So a university, for example, that runs applications on the cloud can assign very fine-grained permissions to each of its IT personnel, like the IT staff. Of course, cloud providers have firewalls, they have load balancers, and they have packet filters to deal with denial of service attacks. And cloud providers also have private connections to let companies extend their intranet into the cloud. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later. So tenants should learn how to employ these mechanisms, and this requires training, and there's a lot of documentation to read, there's a lot of solutions to learn, but it's what we have and what we should use. And collaboration with the cloud providers is essential. So when there's an issue, we can contact cloud providers to try to speed up resolution. And if we find that there's a gap in the existing solutions, then we can work with the cloud providers so that they deploy extended solution mechanisms to solve this existing gap so that we converge to a more secure deployment as time goes on. So we have seen that in the cloud, every access is remote. The company employees access the resources remotely, and the company's clients, for example, shopping on the storefront, also access the services remotely. So we need to protect this remote access. So one thing that we need to do is protect and isolate business data. So employees, for example, might need to store some data on their personal devices, like the laptops or the cell phones. So we need to ensure that this data is protected. And most laptop operating systems today and cell phones have solutions to keep the data encrypted. So it's very hard to extract information from these lost or stolen devices because the data is encrypted. So we need to break the encryption or get the security key to access the data. In Windows, for example, we have BitLocker, and Samsung phones have Knox, but Apple, Linux, and other cell phone vendors have similar solutions. And to protect remote access, we also need to protect all of the communication between the employees and the cloud and between users and the cloud. And to do this, we use end-to-end encryption. Another thing we need to do is secure the workflow of the employees. So we need to make sure that the employees can work, so they need to access the services that they need, and we need to guarantee that the security and protection policies are enforced. And this means that these services are available, that the employees can access them, and that only the employees with access can access the service. And to do this, we use identity management and user authentication. And finally, we need to enforce this protected communication and the workflow security. And to enforce encryption and authentication everywhere in all the resources that we have on the cloud, we can use virtual private networks. So we're going to talk a little bit more about end-to-end encryption, identity management, and virtual private networks in next videos.